Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors, Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Board of Directors regular board meeting. It's Thursday, October 26th. It's 6 p.m. 57 seconds. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Board Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Director Sailors.
Present.
Director Weber.
Here.
Director Sheets.
Present.
Director Gould.
Here.
Director Wood.
Present.
Director Rice. Is absent. Director Jones.
Here.
Director Costa.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to ask Director Gould to lead us in the pledge for our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director. All right, we move on to the Metro Cable announcement. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T UVerse cable systems. This meeting is also webcast at Metro 14 live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays at 6 p.m. on Monday, October 30th, 2023, and again at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023 on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. Next, we get to a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdictions, including items on or not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers, Madam Clerk?
Attendees online, if you would like to present anything to the board at this time, please raise your hand and I'll give you the opportunity to speak.
And do we have any speakers in the room?
No online response.
No speakers.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda or items on the of consent. First, I'd like to item number 4, the contract award owner advisor for Zinfandel on the consent calendar is being pulled from the agenda and no action will be taken. You've all had a chance to look at the agenda, the consent item. Do we have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Director Weber and second by Director Wood. Call the roll call, please.
Aye.
Director Weber.
Aye.
Director Sheets.
Aye.
Director Gould.
Aye.
Director Wood.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Costa.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar is approved with the exception of item number 4.
All right. Next, we move on to the presentation items. First one will be fiscal year 2024-25 pension plan actuarial valuations by the California Public Employees Retirement System, and that will be our CFO, Mr. O'Toole.
The CalPERS fiscal year 24-25 annual pension valuation for Safety, PEPRA, and Classic plans. This is an annual presentation, and I'll be sharing the major findings in their most recent annual valuation report for those plans. And the report provides updated market performance data and on our pension plan, as well as the anticipated costs we'll have to pay in the upcoming fiscal year. The report is CalPERS's annual statement to all its members, whether that be the state of California or other local agencies, and who use CalPERS to administer their pension plans. It describes the fiscal condition of the plan overall and how member agencies' contributions will affect the overall level of fundedness, and meaning its costs for that fiscal year and the cost to ensure that future fiscal years and costs are covered. We'll be looking both backwards at trends in the three plans, as well as looking forwards into the market returns and how that will affect funding going forward. First, we'll start with looking at the plan itself. So this slide here is district employees and retirees by plan type as of June 30th of this fiscal year. The unshaded columns are for this fiscal year, and the shaded columns are just for reference for last year. So you can see the miscellaneous PEPRA. We have 44 PEPRA employees now in the miscellaneous class, non-safety. In the classic, we have 42, and in safety, we have 606. And the retirees, as you can see, we have no retirees in PEPRA right now, and 151 in the classic, and 847 under safety. So the support ratio, which is the actives divided by retirees, for classics is 0.28, and for safety, it's 0.72. So incidentally, that PEPRA, the number of PEPRA employees and the number of classic, this is the first time it flipped. We now have more PEPRAs than classics, which makes people like me feel old. So on the safety plan, it includes both the classic safety staff again, and includes who received 3% at 50, and our safety PEPRA who received 2.7% at 57. The miscellaneous is everyone who was hired before 2013 or was in another CalPERS system before 2013, and they received 3% at 60. And then finally, the miscellaneous PEPRA will receive 2% at 62. So just a refresher on what those rates are. Okay, this next slide is, this is informational, and this is a question I get a lot of, and it can be kind of confusing. So I want to just bring clarity to how the market performance affects our rates. So if you focus on the first, the middle three columns first, it's probably the good place to start. So what's at the second column there is a month the assessed valuation report is issued. So these reports are issued every September. And then the middle column is assessed valuation, the market performance base date. So that base date is the date that CalPERS uses to they say this was the market performance on this date, and they're going to use that date and the performance on that date for the projections, which gets you to the next column, which is the fourth column, assessed valuation report, effective year for a local agency. And that is 2 years after the market performance date. So let me just go over the first example there. So in September 22, there was a report issued a year ago, and it covered the market performance date from June 30th of 2021, so the year earlier. But the actual implementation, when you saw that market performance manifested in rates we have to pay, wasn't for 2 years later, till July 2023. And then the next line below that is what's for this year. So we got the report last month in September. It's based on market performance as of June 30th, 2022, and it will go into effect next fiscal year on July 1, 2024. So those are the three columns to focus on. What can be confusing, what you'll hear in the press is when CalPERS comes out with those rates, you might hear like, oh, the rates are going up next year. The rates going up next year. Well, that's not us. That's not local agencies. That's for the state. And that's what that column at the right is it shows it's a year earlier than us. So those market performance rates hit the state the year after the market closes, and we are a 2-year lag. And if you're interested in the background of that, it's really as CalPERS was making these changes, the local agency advocates wanted 2 years to have to realize those changes, and the state accepted a 1 year. The idea being, it's a give and take, but the idea being if it's a bad year, we want 2 years to get ready for it. So that's why local agencies have a 2-year lag versus a state with a 1-year lag. And then all the way at the left is the titles. I almost didn't include, but but it is important to know the titles of the report. But that's that is just saying the actual variable valuations of the year that the pension the activity data was sort of based on. So you can almost forget the left column if you just want to know that. When I receive reports, I'll just tell you I don't even look at the first page. I just go right to the data. But anyway, what is described there and in the bullet below is kind of how you use the valuation reports. But the important takeaway is like there's market performance. It doesn't hit our plan for 2 years. So, okay. Moving on. So now I'll go through the 3 plans. Starting with PEPRA. This slide shows Metro Fire's employer costs for those 44 PEPRA employees and no retirees. It covers a 10-year period from 2019-20 to 2028-29. And these are our staff who were hired after PEPRA took effect again in January 2013. who accepted a new lower level of benefits. And so looking at the columns there, start with the orange columns. The orange columns are the unfunded accrued liability, which is the amount needed to fully fund the system with assets equivalent to long-term liabilities. The orange column, if you notice the trends there, it disappears in 23-24 this fiscal year because the performance on June 30th, 2021 was so strong that it eliminated that requirement. So we at that point, we had eliminated our UAL, our unfunded accrued liability. So that long-term debt was eliminated. But then when the market performance was revealed for 24-25, you can see that it goes up. And that's the bulk of my presentation going forward, is really focusing on, we will have increased liabilities because of that market performance on June 30th of 2022. So the blue columns are the normal cost, or that's the cost that we pay PERS to operate the system for that year. So just like that's the short-term 1-year cost is in the blue. We expect that blue column is going to go up normally because we're adding PEPRA employees. We get new younger employees in the non-safety classes, what this shows, of course. And we have new employees in that. You're gonna have more costs. Okay, and then for reference, the final year, the fiscal year for this fiscal year, the PEPRA's normal cost is $140,000. So it's a pretty low cost for us. Now I'm going to move over to miscellaneous classic. So this is again, we have the unfunded accrued liability in orange. We have the normal cost in blue. The blue cost stays fairly flat. We're not expecting to add many more miscellaneous people like me will be going away. So it stays fairly flat. But the orange bars are the unfunded liability. So that's our long-term debt. We expect that to go up. You'll notice that between 22-23 and 23-24, it stayed kind of flat. And that's because we had that good market performance at the end of on June 30th of 2021. So it stayed fairly flat. And then, but then it goes up again based on the more recent market performance. Which brings us to which is the bulk of our plan and our expenses, which is the safety plan. So what we see here is the columns are getting taller when it comes to expenditures. It's seldom a good thing, but the blue, the normal cost is staying fairly flat. Not anticipating, the plan doesn't anticipate an enormous amount of growth in normal costs. The orange column, the unfunded accrued liability, is a little more erratic. You can see that it dips in 23-24 for the reason that I mentioned. Good performance, dropped down the UAL a little bit, but then it goes up again, reflecting those market returns, those poor market returns from 2 years earlier. So 24-25, reflecting the poor market returns on June 30th, 2022. Altogether, the combined UAL has risen from about 37 million in 2019-20 to 57 million we expect in 24-25, and then climbing to 72.3 million, which is the total of the blue and the orange lines, and 28-29. Okay, so now let's take a look at historic funded ratios, and this slide is a 7-year look backwards at how much assets we have in the CalPERS fund with anticipated contributions to cover long-term liabilities. So assets divided by liabilities is what this is showing. As you can see in the slide, the general trend is improving fund ratios through 21-22. It's a little bit erratic, but generally improving through 21-22, and then that dip. For example, miscellaneous PEPRA got all the way up to more than 100% funded, more money in there than we actually anticipated needing. And then with the market performance on June 30th of 2022, in 2023, it comes down to 87.9. And as you see in the statement at the bottom, the funded ratio for the entire fund was 72%, which means our miscellaneous classic is just a little under that. And then safety is at 62.2%, quite a bit under. But this is a historical picture that can kind of convey how the numbers can move around. But generally, we're moving towards a more funded level until this poor market year. So this is the slide on the amortization schedule and alternatives. So this slides provides the current amortization schedules prescribed by CalPERS that we are currently paying on, as well as two alternatives. They also gave us a 15-year and a 10-year payment plan. So said if you, and which yields some savings as shown on the slide. Let's see, up until a few years ago, the amortization schedules were around 30 years for us. CalPERS has been slowly shrinking them. So that does mean increased costs for us. And we're now around 20 years, 20-year amortization schedule, with the exception of safety, which is at 21. Let's see, as you can see in the safety line under the current schedule, over 21 years, a district would pay $960 million, including $419 million in almost $419 million in interest. And with the in the savings column at the right, you can see if we did, for example, under safety, we reduced our amortization period to 15 years, we could save $108 million, and under 10 years, we could save $221 million. So substantial investments yielding significant savings. And that is one option to reduce our debt to our payments for the pension plan. So this slide, I just wanted to slip in as well as just, this is kind of this is a historical perspective on market performance. This is a 20-year perspective. You can see 3 years where it was underneath where they had negative returns. For example, in 2009, everyone remembers those bad old days. So negative return at 23.6%, pretty significant. What's remarkable all the way to the right is that you can see that the exceptional returns that came in 2021 of 21.3%, followed by a negative return of negative 6.1%. That is the greatest change, year over year change in the 20 years. That's about 27%. And that is the reason why we're looking at these funded ratios going down and contribution amounts going up for us and for all members of CalPERS. Below the chart is a discount rate change. Just for reference, some people are interested in this. So the discount rate, which is essentially the assumed rate of return that CalPERS makes on its investments, it has declined. You can see in 2003, it was 7.75%, and all the way off to the right, it's 6.8%. Now, this chart doesn't show it, but the rate of return on June 30th of 2023, so just a few months ago, was 5.8%. So they did not hit their mark, but it's up from negative 6.1% substantially, but they did not hit their assumed rate of return. So here's a summary of future considerations and really the risks. Let's see. First, the expected 24-25 increase in CalPERS costs is $6.8 million. That's the impact of the negative 6.1% return on June 30th, 2022, which amounted to, as I said, a 27% drop from the prior year. In this year's budget, CalPERS spending, we increased CalPERS spending by $3.7 million over the prior year. So 6.8 million relative to that is fairly significant. And let's see, the following year, we expect another increase. As I said, they had a 5.8% return on June 30th of this year. So we expect there will be an increase, though not as significant as what we saw with a 27% drop. Let's see, other considerations. Funded ratios for safety and miscellaneous are declining now and are below the CalPERS average of 72%. And let's see, CalPERS projections incorporate a wage growth of 2.8%. To the extent wage growth is above 2.8%, that will be reflected on our rates. We'll have to pay a little more for that because it doesn't match up with what CalPERS assumed. If wage growth is less than that, and you'll see a little bit of a savings. So. Next, so some solutions, and we see costs go up. We wonder what we can do. This italicized statement is from CalPERS, so they recommend a couple things there, which is an additional discretionary payment. Consider that. Consider making extra payments, like you would, and if you wanted to reduce your debt in anything, as well as the shorter amortization schedules. And we looked at the 15 and the 10-year in an earlier slide. So there's also a couple more to consider. There's several more to consider, but I mentioned a couple more on this slide. There's the California Employers Pension Pre-Funding Trust, which is the sister program of the CERT program, the California, the OPEB related program. So we could make investments in a separate trust fund and have investments sit there for rainy day or for when there's a surge in payments, we take money out to pay pension related debts, just as we do for the OPEB fund. But of course, we haven't taken money out of the OPEB fund at all. It's still accruing and doing pretty well in the market. So let's see. That is my presentation on the annual pension valuation, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for CFO? Oh, okay, Director Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. O'Toole, just wondering now, one specific and one large thing, just for discussion. When the state has that 1 year lag, is that a for sure predictor of what we're going to get hit with in year 2? Because it's 2 years for us?
Yes, they'll be using the exact same market performance date to determine how their pension contributions are going to change.
Okay, so we should know, once we see what the state, what do you call that? The payment is, or the new cost, then we might have 1 fiscal year to anticipate our costs.
Yes,
We have a little bit of time to try to work with the budget and find that money.
Mhm.
All right.
yes.
And then, again, yeah, thank you for these other things, because I was looking for ways to buffer these fluctuations. And I hate to be anecdotal here, but I remember historically there was a time where PERS said to everybody, we're making a lot of money, you don't have to pay us anything. Then all of a sudden we hit a brick wall and we had to pay a fortune. Isn't it, for discussion future, would it not be a better policy to go ahead and make payments even though they say we don't have to? Outside of these extra ones.
Well, I think CalPERS would say absolutely. Just given the fluctuations that you mentioned, they would like to see additional payments. Yes,
But would that help Metro?
it would. The answer is yes, and it could help in a couple of ways. We could, if we pay extra now, then it will reduce the unfunded accrued liability, and so the amortization schedule over however 21 years will be adjusted downward. So that additional payment will be spread over the 21 years. Or in the case of the CERT fund that we do for OPEB, then we could put it in that rainy day fund, if you will, that pension rainy day fund. And when we see that spike, we'll just pull it out and smooth it over so it doesn't affect our normal operations if we would like to do that.
I think it's worth, Mr. President, I think it's worthwhile to have a discussion at some point in the not too distant future about the pros and cons of trying to pay this down a little earlier. It's not the pension bond situation we had 20 years ago, but is this, if we pay that down, is that a guaranteed no increase? Go through that
I
15
can't
years.
say no. I mean,
Call your buddies at PERS and find out. Let's have a go.
you could pay off the entire UAL. I mean, we couldn't, but if you did, it would, as extreme case. yeah.
I'm talking about if we pay it down, will that hold the cost at that point? Trying to avoid any extra increase in, let's say, 5 or 10 years down the road.
Yeah. Given the variability, I think the best way to smooth it, to avoid the bumps, would be a separate investment, like the CERT, would be to have the funds sitting out that you can pull in when you need them to pay out, to smooth.
No, thank you for that. And I look forward to maybe some further discussion in the next several months about that potential. Thank you.
Okay, Director Costa, would you? Okay, Director Gould has a question.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mhm.
Thanks for the presentation. It's always exciting to, look at all these statistics and dollar values and all of that. There was one that you showed where we had a percentage of funding, and then you said the state has a average that's done. I'm always leery when we see only one set of data points, because that 72 could be across all different kinds of services in the state. What I'm interested in is, where does Metro stand financially in its retirement accounts comparable to other like agencies in the state? To me, that gives us better context for which to look at these numbers and wonder, because for instance, in one number, it shows 68% And that gets everybody riled up. But if that is the highest number of funding in like agencies, then I think that gives us a different perspective to look at when we talk about pay downs. So I don't know how difficult it is, or that data is even available, or if it's super secret, I don't know, but it seems to me like when we see these numbers, sometimes they have a shock value because it's only one piece of data from one agency or what have you. And frankly, I'd like to see where we stand compared to other like size full service fire services in the state of California. There's independent special districts, because it may give us an idea that we're doing really good. And that may influence the conversation, Gay, that we're gonna have down the road if we can look at where are we in comparison to our colleague agencies.
So CalPERS provides the 72% willingly, but I was considering this as well. I was like, maybe compare with other safety plans, as well as other special districts to look for comparables.
Right.
So I can come back and.
To me, it
bring
seems that it would give us a richer context for which to have policy conversations when we can see where we are in comparison to like agencies that have the same level of liability, as it were.
Any other?
I'd like
questions?
to remind the directors to please speak in your mic so that people at home can.
Okay, all right, here, no further questions. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. O'Toole. Okay, next we move on to the standards of cover presentation, and that's Chief Development Officer Jeff Fry and GIS Data Analyst Jake Whelan.
Thank you, President Clark, and good evening, directors. I'm going to start this off and then quickly hand it off to Jake, but I'm actually here with my co-lead here on this project, Deputy Chief Mitchell, and I have some notes because this is really important to me. So this is an exciting day for us. It's officially starts the beginning of the end of the project that started for me in late 2017, but was largely put on hold until we were able to actually bring Jake on as the GI analyst to help us figure all this out. So before I get into that, I just want to note this is an official handoff of sorts. The board entrusted Chief Mitchell and I to co-lead this strategic planning process. And this presentation ends essentially the strategic effort and starts a new annualized planning effort. And I'll draw comparisons to what we did with Erin in the CIP. After that was developed, we turned it over to her and it became a body of work that's now reoccurring that you all see on a regular basis. So with that said, we intend to hand this body of work over to Jake moving forward. And we're excited to see what he does with it. And no doubt he will make it even better as we continue. But before we do that, these projects aren't done in a vacuum, and we rely on a lot of people to do this. I'm sure you can imagine. So we owe them a debt of gratitude that I would like to point out for the board now, starting with the planning side of this effort. And I need to start with retired Deputy Chief Brian Shannon. When we started this in 2017, I didn't know enough about the fire service, and my interest at the time was trying to get the board to a strategic master plan for real estate and tying it to essentially what would become the CIP. To do it right, I need to understand the fire service. So Chief Shannon would sit with me for hours and answering all my questions and trying to turn my very business analytical brain into understanding the fire service. But I think more important for me was the context. He is a second generation firefighter coming from here locally. And I think Chief Martinez addressed it in his address. The history of this agency is very important. And it was important to me to capture as much of that as I could and put it in this document for everyone to know where we come from. So that was, I think, what Chief Shannon provided me. After he retired, he would come over to my house at least every other week, most of the times every week, and we'd spend 6 to 8 hours a session working through a lot of this stuff. So big thank you to him. Aaron Castleberry, I know Director Weber, you keep calling Tom Clancy. It's actually Aaron Clancy. We have this rhythm now where I can create an outline, where I can put in comments and tell where Aaron, where I want the conversation to go. And we have a conversation about it and it turns into this amazing document that you see before you today. So absolutely hands off, another great job. Thank you, Aaron. Moving to the ops side of the team, side of the table, for the critical tasking section that you all saw, that was a brand new thing to us, to take all of those dispatch codes and break them up into categories that we could then measure. So we, with Chief Mitchell's lead, we assembled a team, Chief Fiorica, Chief Green, Chief Perryman, Chief Carollo, to figure all that out. It took us about 5 months to work just through that one section. But I think it's well done. It's going to help us moving forward. Past that, once the document was assembled, we sent it to what I call the technical review team, which is all of our subject matter experts. And we handed them the document and said, help us make this better. And I think I've told you all in various settings, we got about over 300 comments back from that group, telling us how to make the document, what edits we need to make to make it presentable in this next phase. 522 also helped us with that review. But with that, I do want to take a note here and really thank the service delivery team. If you recall, that was a makeup of the 522 executive team partnered with, I think, the assistant chiefs, if I'm correct, broken up into suppression, EMS, and support services. A lot of debate, a lot of work went into that. And it allowed me to sit in the back and listen to the conversation. And when I thought I had it all figured out, I'd hear a nuance and try to figure out how do we capture that with data. And I would hear something in those meetings and I literally had to scrap what I was working on a couple of times to try to truly capture the intent around those discussions about how to make this better. So I do want to thank both of you guys for the effort there. It was truly helpful. So with that said, I want to turn the presentation over to Jake, but I want to also thank him for his part in the project. Jake started about a year ago, and he's been with us about a year. And we gave him about 3 months to work with Chief Shannon to figure out the fire service and Metro Fire. Then we gave him about 5 months to finalize the data collection process and the infrastructure behind it to collect all this information. And then to format the data in something that was easily understandable that you see in the document today. So after that, we gave him about 3 or 4 months to put together all of those data sets, and then to also build all the maps that you all see in that document. And now he's ready to share the effort with the board. So we're very excited. But before I do that, Chief Mitchell.
Thanks, Jeff, and good evening, board. Just to jump onto what Jeff was talking about there, and we've talked about this for a long time, where we started to take this concept from really a concept and turn it into reality took and will continue to take a ton of work. And it was incredible to work with the group that Jeff mentioned throughout this time frame to get to where we're at today. And what I'm really excited about, and what we should all be excited about, is the input or the output from this is increased levels of service delivery, data-driven decision processes that moves us from a reactive 12-month over 12-month timeframe to a multi-year look to changing our service delivery models to address our actual risks in our community in a better fashion, more efficiently, effectively, and safely to the benefit of our membership, as well as the community that we serve. And it wouldn't have happened without the work and the professional staff that we have and the help that we had with our members and 522 working closely together. But it's going to continue to take more work. And what I also like is that year over year, we have the metrics now to test what we're doing to see if it's actually having the impact that we want it to have. It'll allow us to continue to be on the cutting edge of the fire service, not just here in Sacramento, but I will tell you, I've had discussions across our country. We're writing the book on this. And people are very interested in what we're doing because of the work that these folks did. And just as a parting thought here, this process and where we're at today, just this standards of cover document in and of itself usually would take a staff of 10, 20, 30, 40 people. I've heard of some departments even higher than that, at 70 people to build the document you see in front of you today. And that just is, we had Jake, Aaron, Jeff, and the larger group, but I'll tell you the lion's share of the workload was done by those three. And it's incredible the amount of work that they were able to get done through these professionals. So without further ado, you got it.
Thank you, Jeff and Chief Mitchell, and thank you, President Clark, Board of Directors, Chief House, colleagues, and members of the public. In my 13 months at Metro Fire, I have spent a very large amount of time on this project, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to finally talk about it and dive into the details that will get us the direction we need to go. So without further ado, let's jump in. To understand our current service delivery goals, we first must go back to where they were identified. The 2020 Board Strategic Plan outlined membership, capital assets, service delivery, financial management, and external engagement as the major focus areas for Metro Fire. All of these factors are systematically related, and a model to address them begins with service delivery. The board identified initiatives related to best practices, administrative coordination, sustainability, and accreditation. It was determined that a comprehensive standards of cover report was the most efficient way to target these initiatives and better understand service delivery. In the big picture of Metro Fire's annual strategic planning, everything starts with a standards of cover. This slide will look familiar to you. This is the service delivery checklist our team introduced earlier this year to help track progress on service delivery objectives. When we last visited with this checklist, we were right in the middle of developing the standards of cover and the data infrastructure that was necessary to evaluate its performance metrics. I am happy to report that the standards of cover has since been completed, as has the build out of data infrastructure that will become the basis of its annual renewal. As part of that maintenance of effort, every year we will update the standards of cover with data from the previous calendar year to further identify service delivery trends and challenges. Regarding strategic documents, now that the standards of cover has been completed, the final necessary document is an official standards of cover policy, which outlines the annual creation of the standards of cover and how its contents will factor into service delivery and strategic planning. That policy will be brought as an action item this coming policy committee on November 9th for final board consideration at the December 14th general board meeting. This leaves us with three major outputs of a service delivery plan, station master plan, and new service plan, all of which are centered on membership and capital assets. All of these outputs will be addressed in an all-inclusive service delivery plan coming this spring. Here's another image that will look familiar. This is the strategic planning framework. Let's briefly review this framework now that the standards of cover has been completed. Based on the findings and recommendations of the standards of cover, we will compile proposed changes to current deployment and conduct a service delivery feasibility analysis. This analysis will identify the benefit gained as well as associated costs to implement that change. By conducting this analysis, a return on investment can be calculated in order to ensure equitable evaluation of each project. We will then rank each project in order to make implementation recommendations to the executive team and the board. Staffing and capital needs for any proposed changes recommended in the service delivery plan will then be requested through the annual CIP and staffing plan processes and incorporated into the district's annual budgeting process for review and approval by the board. Similarly, findings from the standards of cover and related service delivery plans will inform and guide external engagement efforts. Thus, we see that the annual renewal of the standards of cover is fundamental to all aspects of strategic planning. At this time, I'd now like to briefly review all the sections in the standards of cover so that we can better understand them. Section 1 details who Metro Fire is as an organization, the communities we serve, and the services that we provide. This includes the ins and outs of our organizational structure and service area, the geographic, demographic, and economic profiles of the communities we serve and the communities that we expect to develop, as well as operational detail on our service delivery and the stations which provide that service. Section 2 breaks down the risks faced by Metro Fire at the macro and the micro level. It outlines risk statistics general to Metro Fire's entire jurisdiction, while also providing deeper analysis for each specific battalion and station. Section 3 breaks down and classifies every type of incident Metro Fire personnel may be dispatched to into either fire, EMS, hazmat, or rescue incidents. Nearly 2,000 incident codes were sorted and grouped together based on factors such as community consequences and impacts to Metro Fire, critical tasking necessary to mitigate the incident, and the effective response force that is needed to meet those critical tasks. Grouping similar incidents together allows us to more meaningfully analyze our performance and determine where we succeed and where we need to improve. At this time, I'd like to highlight a practical application of the standards of cover, which was made possible using these newly established risk classification methods. Our team has recently been working with the operations division to help reduce call volume and time on task in dense urban areas using alternative deployment methods. While ALS fire engines and medics have historically been the gold standard for fire service, there is evidence to suggest that alternative apparatus deployments, such as ALS squads and BLS medics, can be just as effective and operate together to avoid the financial and staffing challenges triggered with traditional apparatus. Using the risk categories calculated in Section 3, we were able to determine the number of low acuity calls experienced in 2022, which could reasonably be mitigated by a BLS medic system. Supplementing this with data that we gathered in a 6-month BLS medic pilot study from earlier this year, this allowed us to predict BLS call volume and model the number of additional units that would be needed to alleviate that call volume, thereby relieving overburdened medic units around Metro Fire and allowing them to remain available for more emergent calls. These risk categories and critical task capabilities allow us to assign these new units to specific calls in specific areas to ensure efficient use of the new unit and maximize benefits to other units throughout the Metro Fire jurisdiction. This is just one example of how information in the standards of cover can inform service delivery decision-making. Returning to the remaining sections of the study, Section 4 reviews Metro Fire's adopted response standards and service delivery objectives in order to ultimately propose new standards and objectives that better comply with NFPA standards. Each risk class has response time goals that are based on a rural, suburban, urban, or dense urban response standard of the first due that the incident falls in. Moving forward to sections 5, 6, and 7, Section 5 expands upon these response standards and assigns a specific population density-based response standard to each first due area. It also evaluates response coverage through a drive time deployment study, considers if effective response force can be met in varying first dues dependent on the risk class and critical tasking needed, and identifies significant deployment gaps. Section 5 outlines a framework for planning new service and applies this framework to 25 growth areas identified in Metro Fire's jurisdiction. It closes with several findings on distribution gaps, effective response force challenges, and needed service additions to meet these growth needs aforementioned. Section 6 provides data on a variety of key performance measures related to call volume, response times, and workload. It analyzes data trends at a district-wide level before doing a deep dive into each specific battalion and station. Section 6 also discusses the factors that impact resource drawdown and exhaustion before noting findings on high call volume, response times, and workload challenges. Section 7 resummarizes the findings noted in previous sections before highlighting general recommendations and the needed maintenance of effort to improve the standard of cover each year. Echoing much of what has been discussed tonight, this final section of the standard of cover discusses its vital role in annual strategic planning and closes with the recommendation of adopting a standards of cover policy, which covers response standards, service level objectives, key performance metrics, and service delivery objectives. The standard of cover is a living document that details the communities we serve, the risks we face, and the services that we provide. It is an in-depth analysis of our performance and provides empirical evidence of service delivery needs in the face of ever-growing populations and dynamic risks. It provides a new data-based decision-making framework that will improve Metro Fire and the fundamental services that we provide. Reflecting on the uses of the standards of cover, there are numerous opportunities to apply the data and information within it to challenges that we presently face. We can use standards of cover performance data to help guide service delivery pilot studies, as this data will tell us where patterns and performance challenges exist. As seen with the BLS Medic 724 pilot study, we're able to see how new BLS apparatus would fit into the Metro system and how they would impact unit workloads identified throughout the standards of cover. At a larger scale, we can also use standards of cover performance data to walk through specific service delivery gaps using the service planning framework identified at the latter half of Section 5. This framework can tell us things like where new resources are needed, when they should be moved, when new stations are needed, and when new stations should be expanded, all for specific scenarios and circumstances projected into future years. These are just two capabilities of the standard of cover, and I'm confident that more will be identified as we move into service delivery planning. Looking towards the future, the initial standards of cover is just the beginning. As previously mentioned, we will return next month with a standards of cover policy action item to standardize the annual creation of the standards of cover, as well as the prioritization process that will follow to identify service delivery objectives. Our annual maintenance of effort will update the report with new data every year so that we can continue to track performance and evaluate progress. With each year that passes, we will continue to add more and more data to the report, ever improving its validity and trend tracking. As we look past the standards of cover, we will form working groups to collaborate on service delivery studies and define key performance metrics similar to what we have done with the BLS studies and squad studies. We will continue to better integrate data into our reporting process and look to new technologies and methods that will make us ever more efficient every day. On this note, the operations data analyst position that is currently being filled will certainly help with this process and add ever needed support to our data tracking methods in future years. As we look to take our next step in the strategic planning process, the next item in our sights is a comprehensive service delivery plan, which will be composed of key projects from the standards of cover, which will have been vetted and prioritized for your board consideration. Stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, the standards of cover was a critical first step in optimizing service delivery and strategic planning for all of Metro Fire. It allows us to more efficiently identify gaps and inform our decisions as we seek to fill those gaps with the right resources at the right times. Importantly, it also gives us the means to communicate critical information. With a workforce of almost 700, it can be difficult to quickly and efficiently disseminate information. Comprehensive reports such as this allow us to push out information and data district-wide, ensuring that everyone gets the same accurate information in a timely manner. This kind of data sharing and transparency strengthens trust and competency, making our organization stronger every day. To conclude, the standards of cover has given us the tools needed to inventory our own performance in service delivery. And now that we have an idea of what our baseline is, we can identify what better looks like and how we can identify that. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Director Gould has a question.
Testing. We good? I gotta tell you, I've been doing this for a couple days. This has got to be one of the most fundamentally unbelievable documents I've ever seen.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And that's to all of you that participated. I think this is so incredible that we ought to start the Office of National Consulting. We just had an entire document that talked about debt. We got to start looking at new revenue. And we're doing all this work, and then who's going to get it? I think the whole nation could benefit from this incredible work you've done. It's just incredible. The next thing I want to say is I think this needs to get into the houses of our insurance companies in the region who set some insurance thing, you know, S1, whatever it's called. But they need to know what we're doing because it reduces the risk of our citizens. And in a time in California when it's hard to find homeowners insurance and those kinds of things, this hits right at that. You know, it's not running just 911 calls, even though that's critical. This is a document that improves the safety of everyone in this region. And so I think this is just incredible, the work you guys have done, just the details. So Office of Consulting, that's a good one. Get it to the insurance companies and force them to start reducing the cost of insurance to our constituents who are headed for some challenging times, I think. I think that's a really important thing. And the other thing I would say to you all is you're starting something pretty incredible. I mean, as I think Chief Mitchell mentioned, it's already getting phone calls, you know, that you should, and it's an hourly rate. I don't know, make it $1,000 an hour or something. But I think we also have to realize that maybe what we ought to also start conversations with are AI groups.
Think about the total man hours to do some of this kind of stuff when it could be done in AI. I know that's a scary word for some people and robots are going to fall out of Mars or whatever. But I think an AI group that catches the vision of what you're all doing can make this data analysis and tweaking of our system so nimble that it's almost a day-to-day change because it's best for our organization and the citizens we serve. So I'm blown away. When I read it the other day, I knew this was going to be something pretty powerful tonight. And you've had every single one of those things. It's just incredible what you guys have done. You know, I know that it couldn't have been done 25 years ago, but you took the bull by the horns and you've made something that will change the trajectory of Sac Metro Fire for decades to come. Way to go. The whole team, way to go.
Thank you, sir.
All right. No one can say any better than Director Gould. And any other questions, Director Weber?
I have a comment as well. I'm also excited as Director Gould. I teased Jeff, and I really meant to tease the entire team with the Clancy, but this is an incredible in-depth and detailed document that Chief Mitchell, you've been excited for months about this, and I can see why now. This is really, really going to improve our service delivery and just the way we do things in the future. Again, fantastic. I do have one question either for Jake or Jeff, but how, with the service delivery, where do we stand on the transition piece as far as you understand what I'm asking?
Of course, yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, the standards of cover is the identification of gaps within the district, and we use data to quantify those gaps. And the transition piece that we're in now is the development of the service delivery plan, which is the answer to those questions. It provides resources, stations, whatever the fix may be, to get us in the direction of filling those gaps and improving the service delivery challenges that the standard of cover noted. So the standard of cover is in large part the identification of challenges, and the service delivery plan, which we are now starting, is the answer to that. Parts 1 and 2, essentially.
But I understand we've already started that. Chief Mitchell understands where I'm going.
Yes.
So,
So yeah, Director Weber, great question. So as you've heard and you mentioned, it's been a number of months we've been talking about all the work that's been going on in the background. And really what we have right now is 2 parallel processes going on that we're trying to bring together at an intersection where we're now moving forward under this one overarching strategic planning standards of cover matrix. So do we make those long-term changes based off of the data? So right now we're still on that separate process here as this one's finishing, and we're looking at how we can transition those FDM units over to MMPs and increase our service delivery utilizing the squad model that we've proven the concept for. So it's part of my operations report, but we're in current transition in our time frame for November 15th to bring on Squad 61. And that is using some of the SAFER grants to be able to test that area and see the impacts. Like Jake's saying, the data is current and updated, and we know that the reliability data of the next call coming in is being covered better just with the squad. So there's that piece. And then on the other side, we talk specifically about those transport units and the ambulances. So as we look at what next looks like and how we're going to get there, it really comes down to people, right? So we look at, there's a lot of tentacles. It's going to have to be a big synergistic effect of how we get this all solved, right? But it's training paramedics, it's hiring BLS folks to be able to institute those BLS dual purpose transport systems and how that integrates. While we train paramedics, it's hiring more paramedics to continue our process right now that we have out there to make that the standard level of care. But really, if you look at it way down the path, years down, it's what is the right level of service with the right resource at the right time that also incorporates MIH, telemedicine, alternative destinations, nurse navigation and dispatch to triage calls out of the system, all of those other parts and pieces too. So to answer your question, that was a lot of words. To answer your question, currently, we've transitioned a couple of those units right now. We're looking at doing some more when we can hire the people to get those units staffed. But we're at a level where we probably will bring on some BLS units also at the same time. And we're trying to balance that all out. at the earliest, just based off of the pool and the onboarding process that is being handled through administration and HR, we're probably first quarter next year.
That is the basis for my question. Thank you.
I would get there. I just am excited about all those other things too. So thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you for that.
May-
Excellent,
Appreciate your
excellent
time.
Excuse
presentation.
me, Mr. Chair, I just want to echo, thank you. Thank you very much to you and the entire team.
Mhm.
Quick question, is all this public information? Can we take this info and brag on it?
Of course, yeah, so this can be found on the board website under, I'm sorry, the Metro Fire website under the board page. The document is posted, it's uploaded, it can be downloaded, sent to whoever. We have already gone through the steps of sending this out to our regional partners and stakeholders to solicit feedback. So I would encourage the same of all of you and dig into it and ask the hard questions and let us know what's good, what's bad, and how we can improve it. We're excited for this step, but also for next year, as this is only going to get better in the coming years as we get more data and improve this process.
Director Gould would like to add some.
You put it on the page for board of directors?
Yes.
Who the frick goes there? This should be at the front page.
Yeah.
Goes in and out with big blinky lights or something.
I'll talk with
Dude, you
IT.
can't bury this. Nobody goes to the director's material.
No, they
Four
will.
people and they don't get around much.
No, they
but-
will though.
Come on, let's put this someplace where it stands out in the community. It's such a massive
Yeah.
benefit. This day is going to go down in history of this organization. I guarantee you that. People are going to remember the day that this baby got launched and transitioned, or Jeff, whatever you said was happening to it today. But this is like having twins. This is awesome as directors. Yeah, guys,
Can't
I
you
just can't,
tell?
I can't praise you enough, but to hide it on the board of directors site, nobody goes there. Okay,
Talk with IT.
so I'd love to see it on the front page, flash, and to tell everybody what you guys have been doing for years. Makes no sense to bury it where we live.
Now you know.
Well, this, Mr. Chair, yeah, this exuberance is fantastic and I love it.
Yeah.
And there's also very, very practical implications that are covered in this report. This discussion about unhoused population and what our real calls are, that is crucial to be able to share with our county partners and our city partners. The percentage, well, just so many different things like 29% household speak another language than English in their home.
Mhm.
That has a lot of educational opportunities for us as a service delivery government entity. The risk assessment down to the actual fire station level,
Mhm.
that is fantastic. And I love the discussion about response times based upon risk assessments. That's accurate. It helps us be accurate and realistic. The response standard analysis was over the moon, out of the house, whatever, however you want to play it. That was great. Discussion of gaps. That is the criticality that we need to address, maybe at even a higher level. It was mentioned in there. One thing that resounded with me, it's on page 297, in case anyone wants to look it up. Quote unquote, not all calls are created equal. And that is the key to an efficient service delivery method that I know Metro Fire is achieving and will continue to achieve. Terrific data management effort. Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Director Clark, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
The excitement is appropriate. It is another great day for this organization. It shows how proactive we are, not just as Metro Fire and in the region. I echo Chief Mitchell's comments. I have, in my 90 days or less tenure, have had the most amount of phone calls and excitement across the nation for this document. I believe this will be taught at the executive level at the National Fire Academy as a demonstration of what right looks like. Director Gould, it will get there. I think if Jeff Fry could comment on that right now, he strategically did not place it there because we wanted to make sure it was right and get the input in the right areas. Director Webber, I think you'll share these comments, is that our last 2x2 with City of Citrus Heights, the excitement not only from the electeds, but the police department and other agencies that are going to get value out of this outside of the fire service. I can't thank enough this organization of where we look from a strategic level, but the amount of respect, dedication, and commitment from our professional staff, our sworn members, and all of our employees. Jake, Aaron, and Jeff, this is an example of high quality, high caliber work that sets us apart, totally sets us apart. This is a collaborative effort between labor and management. 522, thank you so much, because this was an example of where 522 and operations and professional staff works hand in hand. This is a document, I guarantee you, when we went to Cal Chiefs, I think Chief Mitchell can echo these comments. Everywhere I went on any break, I was being asked about this. Every fire department chief in the state wants this document. It will be the example. That is significant for this organization. I cannot be more proud sitting in this seat from this night, like many others. But this, Director Gold, I share your excitement. For the rest of the board, I share your excitement. This is setting the mark for the fire service. That is huge. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you for that great presentation.
Thank you, directors and Chief House. Appreciate your time.
All right. Oh. All right. Here. So we did the, yeah. So now we're we're all excited. We're going on to the action item, and that's adopt a resolution for acquisition of property at Grant Line 220 Future Fire Station site. Administrative analyst Aaron Castleberry will do the presentation. I mean, actually,
Thank you. Thank you, Director Clark,
Mhm.
Board, Chief House. While we've been very busy with the standards of cover, we've been working on some other things on the side. So continuing these other initiatives as well. Just to give you some background context on this, I know last year this acquisition project was approved in our CIP and then carried over to this year. But the need for a station out to serve in the Cordova Hills development area was actually identified more than 10 years ago. Actually 2 station sites in that area. And since then, we have been monitoring development in the area and working with the developers to identify an appropriate location for the future service that's needed in that area. A few years ago, we actually pivoted away from our original site that we thought we were going to use based on just changes in the development plans and some data that we were coming across as we started to work through the very beginnings of our standards of cover. And that left us to this locating this site. So it is on actually the west side of Grant Line instead of on the east side of Grant Line. And Jeff will talk about that in a minute. Last week, we did finally, we've been working the past several years with the developer to let them know what our site requirements are, to find the appropriate area, parcel specifically, that would meet our needs and our all of our site requirements for a station. This will be one of our larger stations. It's going to be probably the home of a new battalion. So it will be probably a 5-bay station. So we need a significantly larger lot than normal. And last week we were able to meet with the developer AKT and negotiate finally this agreement for the purchase of the land itself. So the staff report outlined some of the details of the agreement, but basically the price will be fair market value as determined by an appraisal. We do have 2.4 million budgeted in this fiscal year for the acquisition. So we're asking tonight the board's authority to go ahead and execute that agreement, go through our feasibility determination period and appraisal period, and then move forward with the acquisition. Should the appraisal come back higher than our budgeted cost, then we would come back to the board with that number for your consideration and approval. Jeff wants to step in here.
As a real estate guy, this is one of my favorite things of all time. So I told Aaron and the executive staff that I was gonna do this. One of the fun things I get to do. So, can you see the screen? So this is a common viewer that we use in Sacramento called the parcel viewer. So what I have highlighted here is the Station 68 site. So you can see all the grading that's happening, adding houses out here at a very fast rate. I'm gonna punch in and start to move in. So this is Rancho Cordova Parkway. This is called Chrysanthi Boulevard, and it will punch through as a major thoroughfare from the old Anatolia site through Americanos, which will be another thoroughfare site, and attached to Grant Line here. So the site, these roads and parcels are days old. So if you take a right-hand turn down Chrysanthemum onto this Gray Owl site, right here in this middle of, it's called a remainder parcel. The developer is going to carve out 3 acres right here, and that will be the new home of this station. So it's pretty strategically located on an arterial street. It gets us to Chrysanthi, which gets us to north and south corridors and Grant Line and Americanos. And of course, Chrysanthi attaches all the way through this Rancho East development. So great strategic site for us. So just want to show the board that and everybody here. I'm getting that question a lot, like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So now you all know and you can share it out there. So thank you.
Excellent.
And with that, I can answer any other questions you have. Otherwise, we would request the approval of the board to move forward with our site acquisition.
Do we have any questions?
Mr. Chair, I'll move it.
Okay, you have a motion in a second. Second is Director Jones. Call the roll, please.
Yes. Director Sailors,
Aye.
Director Weber,
Aye.
Director Sheets,
Aye.
Director Gould, Director Wood,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Costa,
Aye.
President Clark.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
The resolution is approved, adopted.
All right, let's move on to reports. Thank you, Ms. Castleberry, again for your and Jeff for your contribution to this this motion for this action item. President's report. I don't have a report. We're going on to the fire chief's report.
Good evening, directors, colleagues, members of the public. I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody that had a part in the planning and assistance of the transfer of command ceremony. It took a lot of work by many, many people internally and externally in the region. We had antique apparatus from many predecessor agencies there. And we had logistics working after hours, and it was another great evening for the agency. So thank you. And to continue with meeting members, introducing them to the board trend, I'd like to introduce Engine 25 on the B shift. It's Captain Greg Lynch, Engineer Cody Burdett, and Firefighter Michael Christensen. And Captain Lynch is the Vice President of the Metro Firefighters Association, and Engineer Burdett is the Secretary. They're working on the retirement dinner that some of you guys remember to bring that back. We have met. He'll talk about the details of that. I'd like to invite them up to the podium to introduce themselves to you and share a few thoughts and words and explain where we're going with the retirement dinner.
Good evening, board.
Good
or
evening.
directors. This is new to me. When I went to college, I had a choice between drama and public speaking. I chose drama. So I'm the VP of the Metro Fire Association, and this is the secretary. The president is Blake Carlisle, and Alex Stradoni is our treasurer. Just a little background of the Metro Association. It was developed a lot of years ago, and it's basically just to take care of our members. whoever's part of the association, we put on events such as Easter, Christmas. We have the Easter Bunny here in this room. Mike, our firefighter, dresses up at Easter, and we, have an Easter egg hunt.
You're
But anyways,
blowing
I'm
us
here to
cover.
talk about the association retirement dinner. We have not put on. We're fairly new to the association. We just joined this year, or took over this year. So the retirement dinner hasn't been done for several years. We're looking at, I believe you said 87 members that need to be recognized by us. Which, COVID, everyone dealt with that. We just weren't able to put it on, I guess. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. We're looking at March or early April to put it on, and just got to find a date on the calendar and put it together. Do you guys have any questions about the retirement dinner?
Oh, it's exciting that we're bringing it back.
Yeah. That's exciting for us all.
Absolutely. Yeah.
These members deserve to be honored for their dedication to the community, and we get the honor to host it.
All right.
So it's a privilege, and we don't take it lightly. We're honored. Any other questions? I'm up here. This is the
sure-
night.
I'm sure it's gonna work out well. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, fellas. for
Good
being here.
job, guys. Go ahead, chief.
All right, and some reassignments. Congratulations to Captain Chris Kellogg for being selected to fill the EMS day captain. That assignment's effective October 22nd. The district is accepting letters of interest for the position of chief pilot in the Air Operations Division with a filing date of November 17th by 4 p.m. Congratulations to the following personnel who were selected as a Public Information Officer Relief personnel. That's Captain Anthony Glenn, Captain Mark Nunez, and Captain Andrew Whaley. And I've been through a few meetings lately, and some of those included Chief Mitchell, Chief Wagaman, Lozano, and I attended Cal Chiefs, the annual conference last week in Ontario. I talked briefly about the excitement down there on standards of coverage document. AI was a big topic down there. You'll probably get some follow-up reports at later board meetings on where AI and the fire service is going. 7 staff members and Director Weber attended the Citrus Heights State of the City address, and that was well received. We had a big turnout there, larger than most previous years. And the police chief said and called me and said he needed to bring reinforcements next time and that he didn't want me to blindside him ever again. So he did give me some get out of jail free cards if I came through the city of Citrus Heights anymore. So that was good. And then Roger Mitchell and the Rio Linda Alberta Park District fundraising event was well attended by Metro Fire Reserves, an on-duty engine company, and several directors, and about 7 staff members. And that was for the restoration of fire truck number 2. Roger was really happy. He must be, because he's not here this evening. Metro Fire staff and representatives from the city of Citrus Heights met this week for the quarterly 2x2 meeting. And some of those topic sessions were the year-to-date city statistics, including the 4th of July, how we can work in the next 4th of July as a collaborative effort. I think Chief Law will do a presentation early next year on what that looks like. Recent community relation events within the city itself. And then the standards of covers was a big topic of discussion. Again, we're going to hear that a lot tonight. So, and then we had a great labor management meeting yesterday. And this morning we went to the Sacramento County Fire Chiefs Association meeting. And once again, taking a lead in the region, implementing our squads. We're being followed by a report out today from CSD, Consumnes, that they are going to put 2 squads in service next year. So once again, we're taking the lead and changing how we do business appropriately for our demographics and what today's responses look like. And that's the end of my report, unless you have any questions for me.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions of the chief? Thank you, chief. You're as busy as can be, man. We got so much stuff going on.
I told you I was all in.
Oh, yeah, you
All
are.
in.
You're proving it. That's for sure. All right. We appreciate you. Next, we have the operations report. Chief Mitchell.
Thank you again, President Clark and Board. So as I mentioned earlier, as part of my operations report, but it's been mentioned a few times, we are on track to reach our goal of putting Squad 61 in service on or before November 15th here in the next few weeks. There's been a lot of work already done, to lay the groundwork for this by Squad 24 and the proof of concept that provided for us, as I mentioned earlier, and also identifying all of those little things that have to happen to make this work with dispatch and changing logistical support, vehicles, and all of those things that have to happen. So I'm happy to report we are on track. And we're also looking at, as I mentioned, the plan for further expansion of the program and a number of the other programs I mentioned earlier with the BLS ambulances and things, which is in alignment with the strategic process and also the standard of cover that we've, again, mentioned many times. So, secondly, for wildland season, due to the weather we've been experiencing, we are, and the long-term outlooks and the forecast, as well as the fuel moistures, Metro Fire will be transitioning out of our peak wildland staffing on November 1st at 0800. We do have a wind event this weekend to get through, but we're looking at those partnerships with CAL FIRE as well as our regional partners. We made that determination that November 1st will go into our winter response models, which doesn't mean that we don't have the capability anymore. It really means that we will just be dispatching a smaller number of units or a single unit. And then if something changes, we can always bring everything back on. But it does also encompass putting our bulldozer not on a 24/7 status. It's a 1 hour return call if needed, as well as when our air operations goes back into service, having that 1 hour skids up time frame to be able to deploy if needed. So it doesn't go away. It just becomes that winter model. CERT update. I'm happy to report that we have a CERT basic class ending on this Saturday, which we have 26 students in, and they will be, looks like, successful completing the course. And we're looking to adding all 26 of them into the ranks with an advanced CERT training coming up here very shortly to continue to grow that very valuable program for our community. And this will take us to approximately 45 members in our CERT program, which I'm happy to report is our largest since COVID. So we're on a good track with that. And then finally, just to highlight another crew that I thank Chief Farica and Chief Chris Vestal for bringing forward. Back on October 13th, we received a unique request from Joe Pick from the Firefighter Pacific Burn Institute. He made a phone call to Chief Vestal down at Battalion 9 and asked if we had an ability to offer some help to a firefighter who was traveling to our area from Bend, Oregon. This firefighter was traveling in an RV with his wife down to Sacramento to be with his mother. And she had been admitted to the UC Davis Medical Center with severe traumatic injuries following a vehicle accident that ended up taking this firefighter's father's life as well. So it's very traumatic for him. I'm proud to report that the crew at Station 62 were contacted that day and happily stepped up to the plate. When the firefighter and his wife arrived at 62, they not only made sure that their RV was secured and they were taken care of, they fed them dinner. And then they made sure that they were able to get them down to the hospital to meet with and see his mother prior to visiting hours being over. So although they are not here present this evening, I'm just incredibly proud and honored to recognize Engine 62's crew that day, Captain Mike Rowan, Engineer Chris Botto, Firefighter Ryan McLean, and Medic 62 Firefighter Alexander Pibble and Firefighter Wayne Horton for their kindness and compassion. And a big thank you to, again, Battalion Chief Chris Vestal and Chief Farica, our shift commander on duty that day, for approving the plan. They made a great decision. I didn't even have any awareness about it until after it was already done. So our people are doing the right thing. So that's awesome. And again, this event highlights the great men and women we have that are here and reinforces their dedication to serve others, as well as reinforces that camaraderie that makes so much of what Metro Fire is, as well as the fire service as a whole. So on that note, I will end my report unless there's any questions.
Do we have any questions from the operations report by Chief Nickel? Thank you,
Thank you.
Chief. Great report. Next, we move on to Deputy Chief Bailey and his administrative report.
Good evening, Board of Directors, Board Chair, Chief House, colleagues, and members of the public. Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration with the Administration Branch Report. I'll start with Community Relations Division. I want to thank Brenda, April, Allie, and Parker for all their hard work for the transfer of command ceremony that was held Tuesday. It was a great event. I know there's a lot of work, effort, blood, sweat, and tears that went in putting that together. So it was a great event. So thanks for everyone, including from all the other divisions as well. We have an open house at Station 109 on Sunday, November 5th from 0900 to 1100. If you need information on that, just go through Marnie. We can get you that information. They attended the State of the City, Citrus Heights with us as well, with our team. And also, just so everyone's aware that we have the Rancho Cordova State of the City that is November 1st that we will be attending as well. Makeup yearbook portraits are November 7, 9, and 11. Please contact Brenda for those who haven't got their picture taken. Quick reminder, the fraud risk survey went out to the board members. That needs to be turned in and completed by October 31st. You can speak with Dave after the meeting here if you have any questions. Planning and Development, Jeff Fry met with Rio Linda Recreation and Parks District Safety and Security Committee to discuss wildfire risk in its jurisdiction and the role parks and recreation districts play in fire prevention and mitigation. He also discussed with them the preparation, training, and response as it pertains to Battalion 5 operations. The Stand to Recover is a great tool to facilitate in these discussions, and Jeff has promised to continue to help them develop their planning efforts. So thank you for that, Jeff. Captain White, who is still heading up our recruitment and outreach. We had two of our firefighters, Julie Whitney and Nicole Barfnick, volunteered for the Fire District Heroes Girls Fire Camp on October 7th and 8th. So thank you for that. Captain Jim Ellis assisted with Sac State's job fair last week. The recruitment event that was held at SCTC Saturday, October 21st, Tim White handled that event. And then Captain White is also preparing for next semester at Del Campo, working with one of our former employees, which you all know, Schneider, Engineer Schneider. Human Resources. We have office technician testing October 30th. Fire mechanic recruitment, it closes October 31st. Chief pilot was put out. It closes on November 17th. In backgrounds right now, we have for the Fire Academy, it's been completed. We have 9 external fire paramedic candidates, 9 internal. We have 1 EMS system technician in background. And we had, which I reported out last week, we had 85 that were invited to the interviews for EMT. We had 70 complete that process that were invited to backgrounds. So we have 65 EMTs and 5 of those are already paramedics. Many of those EMTs are in a process now of completing their paramedic as well. So congratulations to all that. That's a large group. So thanks to Leslie and HR for getting that together. And the completion for that background will be completed by March 6th. That is the deadline. So that is all I have for you this evening, unless you have any questions for me.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much. For
Thank
your
you.
report. Okay, next we move on to support services, and that would be Deputy Chief Wagaman. Welcome.
Good evening, President Clark, Board of Directors, Chief House, staff. Good evening. Tyler Wagaman, Deputy Chief of Support Services with your support report. So first off, I'd like to just highlight a few things going on over in your logistics division, one of which that I did report out at our last meeting, or 2 meetings ago. Sorry, I missed the last one due to another event I was with Chief House. 3 new fire engines arrived, and logistics just finished outfitting them with about a half a mile of hose each. One of the things that we do with our new fire engines is complement them with new equipment, some of which is transferable to other apparatus based on their current status, but hose lives with that apparatus usually for the life of it, unless it needs to be replaced for some reason. So those 3 engines have been outfitted and are almost ready to go into service. Next was the transfer of command ceremony. And to dovetail on what Chief House made mention of, it took a lot of staff, many hours to prepare for that ceremony, and logistics, all of their staff put in numerous hours to make sure that it went off without any issues, and worked behind the scenes and after the scenes to make sure everything was put back in working order. So I commend their entire staff for yet another job well done. Next big project they're going to be working on logistics is our annual ladder testing. We have over 300 ladders throughout the district. They all require rigorous testing every single year. It's requirement of NFPA 1932. And they have quite the process that they have set up. So they're going to be starting that next week, and they should be finished testing all the ladders by early December. So pretty quick process where a fire engine will come in, they will pull all the ladders off of it. They will put on brand new or recently tested ladders so they can immediately go back into service to maintain our service delivery needs while they test the ladders that they just dropped off and prepare those for the next engine to come in and so on. So that's for the logistics division. The next is going to be facilities. Happy to report that Station 101 and 105's kitchens are up and working order. There's good smells coming out of both of those kitchens now, and the crew is very happy to get that space back after having some challenges well over a year now of just cooking a nice meal. So it's nice to get those crews back in that space. I'm going to have our communications manager come up and talk to you about a couple of things that they've been working on to help support both those stations as well. Also, the station 103 and 108 roofs are in the process of being replaced. Of course, right when we took the roof off of Station 103, it started to rain. Yep. So we dealt with that, but nevertheless, they have almost a completed roof there. And 108 is in the process of being done as we speak. Station 29 lost a water heater over the weekend. Why do I make mention of this over a water heater? It's because these stations are 24/7, 365, and a water heater is a big deal when there's only one in a fire station, especially when you need to get our firefighters bathed after a fire, right? Get the carcinogens off of them. So another benefit to having a 24/7 facilities division is they got right out there and they swapped it out in just several hours. Really, it took them a day to get that thing replaced, and it was a custom, high efficiency, 100-gallon water heater for a very large fire station. So it was a big job that they did in a very short period of time. So I have to commend their staff once again. On the facilities or on the fleet front, a brand new water tender arrived to replace one of our water tenders that's timing out. So a 3,000-gallon water tender just arrived at our fleet division. So they're in the process of putting equipment on it and getting it ready for service. We have some operations staff that are going to determine exactly where that is going to go. So we should have a spot identified here. Hopefully by next board meeting, I'll let you know what community is going to be getting a brand new apparatus. Some unfortunate news out of fleet. We recently had what we thought was a minor vehicle accident. Again, no injuries with one of our wildland engines. Unfortunately, just due to the age of the apparatus and after looking at the undercarriage, unfortunately, it's totaled. So that's adds to one of 15 wildland engines that we need to get replaced or that have already timed out. So one of the many challenges that we face as a large organization in prioritizing what our needs are, but we'll have to add that to the replacement list, unfortunately. But with that, I want to go ahead and pass it on to our communications manager, Steve Jordan, who's here this evening, and going to give you a few highlights in his shop. Steve.
Thank you, President, Directors, Chief House, colleagues, and members of the public. Steve Jordan, Communications Manager. So as Chief Wagaman mentioned, logistics is outfitting 3 new Type 1 engines. So recently, the Communications Division completed the communications equipment install, all those rigs. So new radios, MDCs, the headsets, everything they need to communicate with each other and with dispatch to get important call information. We also recently completed, Chief Mitchell mentioned the service delivery and the implementation of the squad going in service November 15th. So our role with that was configuring the station 16 to be able to enunciate for the squad alerting. So with squads being a new deployment model for the district, we didn't have that previously in our stations. So we had to reconfigure that to allow for the squad enunciation in the station. So Chief Wagaman also mentioned Station 105 being the kitchen fire being completed. So our role with that was, of course, restoring the station alerting equipment as part of that project. And with that, with the walls being open, we went ahead and installed equipment, appliance control devices that will actually now shut off the gas to the stoves when crews get a call. So there's no worries about if the stove's on or whatnot. They don't have to remember to shut anything off. It will just automatically do it for them. And we also installed the same device at Station 101 since we had the opportunity there as well. So just added measures that we can take to prevent future incidents from occurring in the future. I also recently collaborated with SAC DOT for a SMART grant for some upgraded Opticom equipment. So it's more like a cloud-based or connected vehicle, emergency vehicle preemption. So which will enable crews to arrive on scene safer and quicker than ever before. Ultimately, what it does is it connects the apparatus to the traffic system. And so what they see they're coming and they're able to preempt the signal lights, give them the green light, clear traffic out to help them move along the boulevard. And since they'll already have the green light, it creates a safer intersection for those guys to go through. So we're excited for that. We had a really good application and collaborated with Jake on that as well for some great data on that. And we hope to get good news back come March and April when they announce the awards. So that's all I have, and happy to have any questions.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions? No questions? Thank you.
Almost completed with the
Thank you,
report,
Brad.
President. Got one more to go. Chief Law is going to come up here. She's been working on 1,000 things all at the same
Always.
time, as she always does. But fireworks, it's not just a talk of the 4th of July anymore. It's a year-round conversation. It's a challenge that we all face. The public is very interested. The County Board of Supervisors are interested, and I know you're interested as well. And Chief Law has done a bang-up job once again this year at identifying our statistics as it relates to illegal fireworks and legal fireworks calls associated with fireworks. And she recently did yet another presentation with the County Board of Supervisors, and I want her to highlight some of the things that she's been working on as it relates to that. Chief Law.
Good evening, directors and Chief House. Barbie Law. I am your fire marshal. As Chief Wagaman mentioned, Deputy Fire Marshal Nygren and I went to the Board of Supervisors meeting on October 24th. And we actually presented jointly with the Sacramento Sheriff's Office, Sacramento County Code Enforcement, and Sacramento County Parks on the regional approach that we took this year in regards to fireworks enforcement. I would like to come and present our Metro Center information to you at our next board meeting, where we can really dive into the information, because it is very important to all of your constituents. We're getting a lot of questions and ongoing conversations throughout the year. So we would like to educate the board on all of the actions that we're taking as well, so that you can explain to your people when you get questions, the extensive and ongoing efforts that are being undertaken here locally by multiple agencies to address the issues with fireworks, both legal and illegal, that we are experiencing. I can answer any questions if you have any right now, but just know that next board meeting, we will be coming with a presentation, and I hope the handcuffs are really off and I can have more than 10 slides to cover the topic. So
You get all the slides you need.
some of you might remember what I'm referring to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Law.
Say
And
that, Chief.
Steve Jordan,
It's all the slides.
I think she already knows the answer to that
There
question.
you go.
sounds like the answer is 12 slides. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah,
Hey, that's
Yeah.
more than.
that concludes the report, President.
All right, thank you very much. We have no further questions. Let's move on to Metro Firefighters Local 522, Battalion Chief Matt Cole.
Good evening, everybody. First off, I don't normally do this, but I'd like to speak to both presentations that were made. First off, Dave did a fantastic job explaining the PERS actuarials. I've traveled now to a couple district meetings in Southern California, Northern California, and we've had the actual like chief operations officer for PERS trying to explain to us, because we have a lot of questions about the differences in Pepper employees, classic employees, the impact on our organizations. And the presentation was 8 hours long with tons of follow-up questions, and they did not explain it nearly as cleanly as you did. So I commend that presentation. And And there is a lot of really important information there, and there are a lot of options. And as Director Jones has stated with the pension obligation bond in the past, I think moving forward with some of the other political action and some of the things that are coming to our voter ballots in the future, we may have opportunities to secure some of that funding moving forward. So, and we can get the data on percentages for like organizations, because I saw it at those presentations. So I'll coordinate with you and we can secure that. And then to Jeff, Jake, the presentation, and obviously Aaron being part of that team, that tool is unbelievably powerful, as you have all said. It's going to benefit our membership, new company officers, new battalion chiefs, newly hired individuals being assigned into firehouses and be able to look at the information there. I think data becomes a cold word sometimes because we say it all the time, and I'm guilty of being like, yeah, okay, data. We're people helping people. That's what the organization we are. And sometimes I think it gets a little bit devalued, and I'm guilty of that. There is no devaluing that data, that combination of information, the effort that went in there. That tool is unbelievably powerful to support a lot of things that we've been saying, but also to take some of our emotion out of what we've been saying to say, okay, well, yeah, maybe that is more right over there. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to work together with you on that. And we're excited about using that moving forward to continue to evolve our deployment as we are setting the tone in the region, as Chief House had said, with Consumnes right behind us and City of Sacramento asking all kinds of questions too. So good stuff. Thank you both. Sorry to spend time. I just wanted to steal a couple minutes on that. Since I last stood in front of you, we've had a number of really important events in the region. We had our firefighter memorial down at the Capitol. We had our 50th anniversary for our Burn Institute. We had our transfer of commands ceremony. All those things take so much work, has been recognized by the board and senior staff here. What I want to thank you all for is your participation, both the board and the fire chief and senior staff in the agency, for the support. You have all been very supportive. The amount of agency presence at these very important events is palpable. And at 522's e-board last week, it was spoken to by the other units, like how much we are doing and how much we are out involved in these things. So thank you, everybody, for the support on those items. Sorry, I have some notes here. Let's see. Steve was just up here talking about comms. I want to welcome James and Alex to 522. They are comms techs 2s. They have been part of our organization for a while. They are now represented and part of 522. So that's exciting for us to welcome them into our labor group, and look forward to continuing to work with them, but having them as represented members is exciting for us. I myself have been involved recently in a number of conversations with DHCS. I know it's at Finance and Audit, and it'll probably come to you later, but with the PPGMT expansion and conversations we've all had, there is back money owed to us to reconcile the changes that were set by statute 1705. DHCS is working with those managed care providers that are late to pay us. They owe about $8 million of services that we have provided. Those are payments in the rear that are coming. And so I'm staying very engaged in that to ensure that happens, not just for us, but everybody in the state. And so there's still work to do there, but I'd like to report out that we are making progress on that. And we're seeing those numbers increase on a monthly basis because of that work. Let's see, our President Jameson is actually in DC right now with Placer Business Alliance. So a very similar trip to what we do for Cap to Cap. I share that with you because Metro protects both Sacramento and Placer County. And so it's important for President Jameson to be back there and do the similar work that we all did when it was the Sacramento trip. And so he's back there with other 522 agencies that we represent Placer County, as well as Roseville firefighters, but a lot of the electeds that overlaps our jurisdiction. So it's good to have Trevor back there focusing on those relationships as well on all of our behalf. And then the last thing I have to report is like Chief House had mentioned, we have a very productive labor management, trying to put some bows on some items that have been kind of on the table for a while, but working together on the recruitment. Chief Bailey reporting the amount of folks in background is very exciting. We need people here. We need to ensure those people are delivering the level of service that is our standard. We're working on ways to ensure that they are trained to that level too. So putting our heads together to continue to look at deployment and increasing our services to all of your constituents is our top priority right now, and we are working our keisters off on that. So that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Report. Any questions for Battalion Chief Cole? Thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Let's go on to committee and delegate reports, executive committee. Next meeting to be determined, Communication Center JPA. I don't see Green here. Is he here? AC Green? Oh. Okay. No report. All right, Finance and Audit Committee, Director Wood, that would be Director Weber. who
Yes, I
chaired
attended
the committee.
the meeting. So CFO O'Toole gave a bi-monthly fiscal report. Yes. And these are the takeaways from that. Actual August 31, 2023, the general fund cash is 18 million higher than the prior year. Overall general fund off to a slow start, as Mr. O'Toole has stated, 2.4 less than the final budget forecast. Monthly PPG EMT revenues are increasing, but now, as Chief Cole just mentioned, 8.6 million is still owed. And the general fund expenditures are 14 lower than final budget. So those are the takeaways from the meeting today.
Okay, and finally, Policy Committee, Director Costa.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't met since our last meeting, so nothing new to report. Our next meeting is November 9th.
All right.
Thank you.
With that, thank you, Director. With that, we move on to board member questions and comments, and I'll start with Director Costa.
Thank you. I just want to say it was a lot of great presentations, a lot of great information, and this organization is moving in the right direction. So thank you, Chief, for your leadership, and thank you for the team for all your hard work. Thank you.
All right. Next, we move on to Director Gould.
I probably already said enough, but I will tell you that I'll never forget this night from what all the people have done on standards of coverage. I've said enough.
All right. Next, we go to Director Sheets. And I apologize, last meeting, Director Sheets, I have to say this publicly. She was on Zoom and I forgot to address her. She didn't say anything. So I was so embarrassed about that, but please.
I was just gonna say at the last meeting, I wanted to send my gratitude to Chief Reed and Station 29 for coming with me to an event where I got to swear in newly kindergarten through 8th grade for their student council. So it was a really fun event. And I was so nervous up on the stage with these kids that just seemed like they knew what they were doing. So it was fantastic. And then I do want to echo the amazing presentations tonight. It doesn't surprise me because I think that Metro Fire is the best organization to work for. So it just goes to show you that it's going to continue. So thank you very much. That's all.
Director Jones.
Not much more to say, echoing all my fellow directors times 10. There you go. Thank you.
Wow. Director Sailors.
I too want to echo that things are moving along so wonderfully forward, and the professionalism that everyone exudes just overwhelms me. Thank you very much. I'm just overwhelmed. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. He caught me off guard. This is a time when Matt Kelly would have said that he's proud to be part of the high performing organization that is Metro Fire. So I want to say that in the spirit of Matt, everything was absolutely phenomenal today, and Matt's comment, quote, just applies. Chief Mitchell, thanks for bringing up the service that Crew 62 offered. I say it before, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I love hearing, and I think it's essential that we show the public the good work that our men and women do every day, because they don't get enough recognition for it. Chief, the transfer of power, transfer of command was an absolutely phenomenal ceremony. And I really respect that you took the time out of a ceremony that was to recognize you to do something for one of our members and give him a promotion, a public promotion. KCRE3 even commented that you took that time out of your day or out of your event to recognize now BC Wilborn. So thank you for doing that. It's one of our core values, service before self, and you lived it. And so thank you. I too went to the memorial service last 2 weeks ago now, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I want to thank Brian Rice for all the work he does. I know he puts a tremendous amount of time into that event, and every year it's just absolutely amazing. This year was no exception. It was a beautiful ceremony. But I just want to make comment because in the fire service, we often compare ourselves to the military. You made that comment or comparison 2 nights ago. And so one of the things that we're taught in the military is, among other things, is that you have respect for your commanding officer and for the chain of command. Here in California, our chain of command is the office of governor. That's the highest office in the state. It doesn't matter who's in that office, what you think of that person, but that office deserves respect. At the memorial program, when the crowd applauded for the governor's introduction, several of our members sat with their hands. They failed to applaud. They failed to show any respect for that office. They put their petty grievances with an individual in front of what should otherwise have been just a simple action to show some respect for that office during a solemn service. I think this third grade attitude of protest lacked integrity and professionalism. And I hope that if we ever get in a situation again, whether it be next year at this event or some other intervening time, the members of Metro Fire, there were other members from other organizations that did the same thing. But I hope we don't do that and stoop to that level again. Lastly, and just on a good note, just want to make sure Burn Institute has got a fundraiser on Saturday, November 4th, right down on 33rd Street between Stockton and P. It's the Heroes, Hops, and Hot Rods Classic Car Show. Tickets can be bought on their website, ffburn.org. Hope to see people there. So thank you so much again. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director. With that, I don't have anything to add. The only thing I wanted to comment also on was the transfer of command ceremony. That was a class act. I mean, and it was beautiful. And yeah, that's all I have to add. With that, we're going to move on. We're going to recess to a closed session and deal with a little business and let you know before, actually, I'll talk about this right now. Our next regular board meeting will be November 9th at 6 p.m. And then we also have a December 14th meeting, and that'll be the last meeting of the year for our board. So I just wanted to say that because a lot of times when we come back from closed session, you're all gone. So, just want to remind you when the next meeting is. Yes, thank you. We'll recess to closed session. Oh, man. All right, we're going back into open session. The board considered in closed session the workers' compensation matter of employee Joseph Reyes. The board unanimously voted to give authority to our third-party administrator to conclude a settlement on the matter. Right. With that, having no further business, except screwing up Director Weber's comment.
Bob, you want to clean it up?
I apologize in public right now. I call this meeting adjourned.
We're just not used to having